Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special solstice edition. We are on the day of the sun's ingress into the sign of Capricorn. And this is, a significant turning of the year. Whenever we mark the solstices or the equinoxes, they equate to the movement of the sun from a mutable sign like Sagittarius, where it was yesterday, into a cardinal sign, Capricorn, in the case of um, the solstice here. And then when we get into Aries season at the equinox, it's the marking of moving into 0 degrees Aries. So in the northern hemisphere, this is the time of the winter. This is the initiation of winter. In the southern hemisphere, this is the initiation of summer, which we equate to the Cancer Capricorn axis, right? Cancer and Capricorn fundamentally are these archetypes of mother and father, right? Saturn being the ruler of Capricorn and Moon being the ruler of Cancer. These are foundational archetypes. And we think of Capricorn as all those foundations that give us structure, that give us order. These are the bones, these are the teeth. This is the physical manifestations of the world. These are the things that take time to develop, right? The bones of a baby, we develop from a single cell organism into a heart and lungs and all this, structure, head and bones and everything comes together to be born into a physical vessel, right? Which is our body. We happen to have this particular solstice on a day when the moon is also in the sign of Virgo. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury and is an earth sign, which definitely, I think, expresses the the embodiment aspect of the mercurial, right? That which is um, functional, logical. You know, Virgo to me reminds me of the papyrus, the paper that's made out of physical earth that we would write messages of a sacred nature on. That's kind of what I think of a lot when I think of the Virgo element. And we have right now Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius, newly stationed direct. In the last couple of days, Mercury is moving now in its direct motion. This is a phase of Mercury in its resolution, resolving the aspects that were um, brought forward during the retrograde. And so I've noticed for myself, like Mercury Station Direct and a longstanding issue that I had with our website was resolved. And all of a sudden, where I was not approved for processing, I was all of a sudden approved. And, it's like that. I worked the entire retrograde in even from the pre-shadow, where in the pre-shadow phase, the systems broke down. I had issues with their communication. Nothing I could do would resolve an issue that the website had created. And it forced me into a Saturn lesson of taking responsibility because otherwise they were going to simply make it impossible for me to do my work. I started down a Mercury process of, do I build a new website? Gosh, and I could feel all my attachment to how much work I had invested in what I've already created. Then I started down, well, how do I meet resolving what their issue is, even if I feel I'm not wrong, right? Sometimes Mercury issues can bring up things that actually we didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but the communication itself becomes hostile or challenged or misdirected based on this idea of like right or wrong. So in that realm, I proceeded down a route of resolving their issue by doing the things that would make me more Saturn legitimate in the light of this issue. And that ultimately is what resolved it. It was a sense of I'm taking responsibility for this. I'm going to do this even though I know that I've done nothing wrong and that what I'm doing is correct. I'm going to resolve it anyways because it's my responsibility if I want things to be in working order. And that's kind of the attitude of this particular Capricorn equinox as well, with Mercury direct, with the moon in Virgo, with the sun now in Capricorn. If there are unresolved issues in our life, we can't really look to who's right or who's wrong or whose belief system or whose thoughts or whose idea isn't in alignment with my own. We actually have to say, what do I think? What do I value? What do I want? And in the long term of my life, what matters most to me? Because our behaviors, our habits, everything that we do is shaped by these long-term choices, right? And the long-term choices from a Mercury perspective are made by many thousands of micro thoughts that habitually form our day, that habitually form our way of being, that habitually form our way of relating to the world. And so if that has been a habit of identifying oneself with guilt, with shame, with inferiority, with procrastination, if that has been a habit of identifying oneself with some sort of not good enough language, whatever it is, I'm not good enough to creatively express in the ways that I want. I'm not good enough because I don't have enough resources to do the things that I want. I'm not good enough because I haven't, accomplished all the things that I thought I would, or that other people, in particular, Saturn can be other people's expectations. I'm not good enough because I don't have the relationship that I desire. I'm not, fill in the blank. This is a beautiful time and a season of initiation in which we can identify and purge all of those messages. We can identify and purge all of those limitations from our vision for ourselves because it's ultimately vision that directs reality. It's vision, or I would say perception, how we perceive ourselves and others, that directs our way of thinking, that directs our feeling of connection or disconnection to the world that we live in. It's what directs our sense of meaning and purpose and our capacity to feel aligned with a greater divine will in our life that says not only are you meaningful, not only do you have a purpose in this world, but there is something sacred and holy about you that can only be created by you. And because of that, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to find that, to discover that, to build that, to strengthen that, and to give that and share that with the world. And if you don't do that, you're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel inferior. But if you do that, you will feel buoyed by the Holy Spirit, by the Spirit of life, by the Spirit of your soul, because you will know that what you're doing here on earth is what you are called to do. That's really the greatest purpose and meaning that we can give to our lives is that the divine has called us here. I've been singing this little song to my baby, and the song, it sort of goes, you called to me and I called to you. I prayed for you and you prayed for me. Who answered who? I don't know. Right? Because there's so much in our lives, especially in those moments when we meet with another who recognizes the gift, the meaning, the sacredness of who we are. When we have those people in our lives that can see that in us, we can recognize, oh, wow, you're an answer to my prayer. That often feels like a relationship with a beloved or, finding the one, but it's really not exclusive to romantic relationships. It really can be as simple as I prayed for this and it must have prayed for me because here we are together. And a part of what we're doing in this Capricorn season is preparing ourselves for a restructuring of our lives and preparing a new ground, which is really being paved by this Pluto in Aquarius, preparing a new reality of how we value our time, our energy, our relationships, um, so that we can have what we desire in the most fundamental, long-term way, right? This is kind of the sacredness of this solstice, is that it's initiating us into that. And then that will lead into the equinox in the spring here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we're initiated into Aries season, making charge of that. And you can listen to my video on the Mars retrograde, where I talk a lot about that cycle because Mars is the ruler of the North Node and Mars is retrograde right now. So we might have a sense of like, I don't actually know what I want to do with myself. I don't actually know what I feel about things, like what's in my heart. And if there is confusion and if it gives us way to anything, it should give way to a pause, to a deeper internalization and a redirection that says rather than doing anything from this place of I don't know what to do, or I don't know what I want, or I don't believe that this could happen for me, or I don't feel like I'm good enough to have what I desire, that the time and energy that we give to this season is to purge that from our narrative, to clear that from our vision, to let go of past stories, past limitations, right? Saturn has to do with limits. If we're coming up against limits in our life of like, wow, with this relationship, I never could really get there where I wanted to go, right? Then what do we have to do in order to get there? We have to let go. That's one part of the process. We have to take responsibility. We have to identify what we value and what's in our heart clearly and make a commitment to that. And then we have to do the work, whatever that work is, to move out of the way the mental, emotional, psychological, physical limitations, right? And it is a reparative process. It is a restoring process. Like anything like strength training, you don't start out strong and feeling capable. You start out soft and weak and flabby and feeling lethargic. And you have to have a certain level of commitment in order to simply not, like the suffering has to be great enough that you are decided to not be that way anymore. And then you have to, in an incremental way, start where you are to build something, to build strength, to build capacity, to build resilience, to build a, a mindset, really, that what you desire is possible for you. And I know for myself, like looking at my postpartum body, I've been finding a lot of Instagram reels on women who repairing their core and building strength after having a baby. And there's a part of me that doesn't believe that that's even possible for me. I see it, what they've, demonstrated through their work. I see what they say that is necessary to do. I feel even, of course, a willingness to do that because I can feel this sense of tiredness with suffering, a lack of strength and mobility that it was very challenging for me at the end of my pregnancy. I was quite sick a lot and wasn't really able to move and to exercise in the ways that I wanted to. And so, um, you know, but the Saturn dimension of it is whether we do on the daily basis the hard work that is necessary to move out of the way, not only the physical, not only the emotional, not only the psychological, not only the visionary aspects, but to get to the core, the motivation, the heart, which says why we want something, why the soul desires it. Because if we can get to the heart of that matter, that's really the energy that will give us capacity and way in order to move forward. So, those are my reflections on this solstice. This is a really beautiful time to clear out, to purge the messages, the beliefs, the ideas, the things that have been holding you back, to clear out the clutter, physically, emotionally, psychologically, to, we have to keep in mind that while the solstice is an initiation point, it's actually in a closing cycle. So we're in a last quarter trine, um, and then we'll move with the Libra moon here, which will be on Monday. Let me go back a little bit. This Libra moon is the last quarter square, and it will be with the South Node. So we get a last quarter square at this 2 degrees of Capricorn and Libra, indicating real final soul level releasing of cycles that have been ongoing. It really perfects here around Sunday afternoon, where the moon comes in here and squares the sun at 1 degree Capricorn here, right before crossing the South Node. I think that's significant as we're culminating this resolution of the Mercury retrograde period. We're going to also see Mercury in these coming days square Saturn, which is also a final square. The next aspect that Mercury will make to Saturn is a conjunction when they're in Pisces. The next aspect Venus will make to Saturn is also a conjunction. So you can see all of these planets are in last quarter phases. The next aspect that the Sun will make to Saturn will be a conjunction when it's in Pisces. What that indicates to me is that on all the Saturnian levels, where our core beliefs, our long-term vision, the way that we feel about what we do, who we are, the meaning that we make of our lives, is in a culmination phase where we are wrapping up a particular cycle of belief system, of desires, of structures, of reality that are coming to an end. And ultimately, as these things do come to an end, we have this new moon in Capricorn on December 30th, so a week from Monday. And then we will have, the moon moving through its new phase within Aquarius as we finish the week, the beginning of January, which I'll get into in next week's week ahead. We have Venus entering the sign of Pisces, right? And then the moon will come to conjoin Saturn. So everything's making its way towards Saturn. Everything's completing, in a sense, right now, a cycle of longevity that says, okay, what's done is done. What's been matured has been matured. What's known is known. And where we are going within our reality and where our structure is a reformation of our beliefs, our vision, our value system. This is kind of a moment where I might say, clear out everything you thought you believed about yourself and then create a new vision from there. Just if you can, taking the time in these next 3 days to listen very quietly inside to a whisper that maybe your soul has been saying for a long time, whose time has come, to a calling that maybe is within your vision for yourself, but you can't actually see it for yourself at this point. You can see it for others. You might believe it's possible for others, but on the level of your physical reality, it doesn't exist for you. This can be in your resources, in your work, in your relationships, whatever it is. And then I would just take yourself out to the most healed possible imagination that you can muster, you know, the most healing relationship, the most healing experience of work, the most gratifying feeling of your own spiritual life, the most peaceful sense of purpose and meaning that you can find within your soul, and say, well, what does my life look like on a habitual, daily, mundane level if this is the way that I'm living and this is what's true inside of me? Because if we can vision something, that means it's true and its truth exists inside of us. It's not far-fetched, right? This soul this little baby that I have, he was a sense inside of my soul. He was not here. He did not exist. Nobody agreed with me about his presence. There was just a knowing of his sense of being inside of me. You know, I heard his call. He heard my call. And together we met one another many months later, many months after his call had entered my heart, many months after his body had even entered my body, right? These are the ways that things develop with Saturn, with Capricorn, with Cancer. They develop over time. And there is a certain amount of structure and reality that has to be built before these things can be received. So, we're clearing the way for what's to come in the new year. This is a beautiful time to take intentional practice, to get creative, or to at least to write to yourself what you're willing to let go of, what stories, what beliefs, what ideas about yourself you're no longer wanting to carry, what vision and what, um, you know, capacity you're wanting to create, and let it be as meaningful as you can possibly access, that the way that you feel about the story that you write to yourself um is like, wow, this is the most loving vision I could possibly hold for myself. And even if it's nowhere near where you are today, the fact that you can even conjure it in your mind means that its presence is already existing inside of you. So, blessed solstice, my friends. I hope that these messages are helpful to you. I'll be back with the week ahead at another time. I look forward to hearing from you. If there's anything in this message that touched your heart, please let me know. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you're new here. And make this season as much of a miracle as it is already in your life and in those around you. May love be at the center of your life now and always. Bye for now, my friends.